Welcome to Comfort Havoc number 2. I am Echo Fan Grey Wolf. This is going to be a sensitive ass video. This is native TikTok video. If you are from native TikTok, welcome. Let's chow down on these Pop Tarts. If you are not from native TikTok and you want to stick around, you're welcome. So, let me explain why I'm making this video as I chow down on Pop Tarts. There's a lot of shit going on native TikTok. A lot of shit. A lot of unnecessary shit. So, I'm making this video because of a black creator who came across my FYP. I'm also making this video because of someone that I follow has gone through some shit that I'm going to talk about, which is why we're here. The first thing, the black creator, God bless you, but he said some very important shit that people from native TikTok need to take to heart. You need to take their head out their ass and actually listen to this black creator. Because he wasn't saying this shit to insult natives. He was talking about Modern Warrior. Okay? Now, it's like everyone else. After the Modern Warrior Chelsea Hart fiasco, everybody wanted to get away from them as much as possible. Lance fucked up. He wanted to have sex with her, but he didn't want a relationship, and his intentions weren't clear. That does not change the fact that Lance did a fuck ton of good shit for the native community. A fuck ton of good shit. And as a person who is mixed native, you have to understand that you have to separate the man from the work. Alright? Yeah. He played a woman. I know how she feels because I've been played by women. But at the same time, I don't really bring that business to the internet. Because once it's on the internet, it's there forever. With the exception of my fiance that I had way, way back in the day, like 11 years and some change ago, telling me that relationships are overrated, you can't come see me anymore. I don't mention her name. I don't do that kind of dumb shit. And I don't take that shit all over the internet. No. I did love her with all my heart and soul. She just didn't love me, and she should have just been honest about it and told me about it. I.e., Lance should have been honest before they even had sex, and if she said no, he should have just manned up and said, okay, go back to England. I'll go back to my little reservation tribal thing, and we can keep doing our activism, and we can still be friends, and just leave it there. Lance didn't do that. And she didn't do that. And that's why if you check anything from native TikTok for like the last 8 months, you'll be hearing songs, and I'm guilty too, of Deep in My Womblands. You fucking knew. You fucking knew. They're still doing it. If you think they're not, it just haven't come across your FYP yet. Anyway, the black creator said that Lance was native TikTok's king. He wasn't 100% right, but he was closer to right than wrong, because Lance has been the most outspoken native warrior for native and indigenous rights on TikTok. He even started a trend of calling people colonizer instead of calling them a racial derivative. Now, colonizer is not a racist word. It's a fact that America was colonized. So, he turned a positive into a negative, and all the racist people really started coming out. You know, oh, you keep calling us racist. And then they tried to make videos about scalping Lance and all kinds of other shit. And then him and the Chelsea thing happened, and it just went to hell from there. Alright? And here's the thing, though. The color creator was like really close to right, because he said Lance is the most well-known native figure on TikTok. And nothing could be further from the truth, except for that was the truth. As far as I know, Lance, is one of the, if not the most popular Native American or indigenous person on TikTok. Now, there are others. There are females who are just as popular. But, because they're females, non-native people aren't really keeping up with them. But I am keeping up with them. I got a whole lot of native females that I follow. They are very, very important to me, and they are doing very good work for the native community. Lance was doing very good work for the native community, but due to an unfortunate incident of him fucking up, everybody started hating Lance. But everybody was still hating Lance before that. And then they only started hating him from his own community because of the deep in my womb lands, and you fucking knew. And I thought about blocking Lance. I literally thought about blocking Lance, and then I thought, wait a minute. If I block Lance, I'm worse than these people who aren't native, that have threatened to unalive him time and time again and all this other stuff, because I never got the chance to live in the reservation. I never got the chance to gain full potential of my heritage. And like I said, I didn't even know I was part native. I killed the bug. I didn't know I was part native until the 5th grade. So you can imagine, from kindergarten to the 5th grade, not knowing my indigenous roots. Because when a child sees their parents or their grandparents, we don't see race. We see humans. We see our loved ones. So I never knew I was part native until a freaking teacher named Miss Conrad, God rest her soul, because I don't know if she's still alive. She was pretty old back then. Until a teacher named Miss Conrad opened me up and showed me the truth of my heritage, Now, if we abandon Lance, what does that say about indigenous unity? So, if you're watching, Lance, I'm still with you, brother. Go back to doing your thing. You can be redeemed. And to me, you are already redeemed. So I'm not blocking you, unless you block me. Because then I can't follow you if I'm blocked, because that's how TikTok works. But I do follow you on Instagram, so you'll have to block me twice, under my government name. That being said, we're going to switch gears now. And everybody, if you're watching this and you're native, you might want to give Lance another chance, because he is the most outspoken native. There are other natives that are right behind him, but Lance did it the best and the most elegant. And I follow other natives. Follow all of native TikTok that I can find, because I'm part native and I'm on my reconnecting journey. And some of them accept me and some of them don't. But when you're not pure blood or when you're not full native, there's always going to be stuff. And now we're going to talk about the native infighting. Let's start with the basics. Y'all see my skin tone. There are light-skinned natives, there are dark-skinned natives, and there's me, mixed native. Look at that. I'm light and dark. But there are lighter-skinned natives that are white passing, all North, Middle, and South America, because natives come in different colors. A lot of us mixed natives are not valid to some of the non-mixed natives, which are fighting over skin tone and losing the focus on missing and murdered indigenous people, on the church babies that were murdered and buried and taken from us, and the Indian act of kill the Indian, save the man. Let that sink in for a minute while I chop on this piece of pork chop. Pop-Tart. I'm going to wash the pork chop. Gatorade Thursday. Okay, back to business. Or I'll break up the other Pop-Tart. The infighting. It started with skin tones. And it only got worse from there. Literally. You have male natives chopping down female natives. You have female natives chopping down male natives. Male natives chopping down other male natives. Female natives chopping down other female natives. You have the full bloods chopping down us mixed bloods. You have the indigenous fighting the Afro-indigenous, which means they're mixed blood with black and indigenous. I'm all three. I'm native, black, and white. Today I made a video how I used to be so ashamed to consider myself Cherokee. I'm going to explain that. Yes, anybody in the world outside of Wes Studi and Wayne Newton, and when I say anybody, I only mean non-indigenous or mixed indigenous like myself. The first tribe they go to is Cherokee. I had to do some research because Cherokee Reservation is in Oklahoma. I know that we are indigenous, but we were told we were Cherokee. But I couldn't find a Cherokee reservation in Virginia to save my dick. Okay? So they got me questioning, are Cherokee even in Virginia? Just when I gave up hope. Just when I called it quits. Someone I follow posted a video that came across my FYP about the Trail of Tears and how many tribes from the East Coast did it actually affected. It showed me the Cherokee line. Cherokee was a big fucking tribe, yo. Cherokee and Iroquois, big fucking tribe, including Creek. Really big fucking tribe. Cherokee land spanned it from Virginia to Georgia. Now there's also Powhatan, Seminole, and Rappahannock and some other unfederally recognized tribes all up and down the eastern seaboard. But Cherokee and all the tribes on the east, from New York and Maine and, those two states that I can't get right now in my head, from Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Boston, all the way down to Florida, the Trail of Tears covered a bulk of that. But I believe the Trail of Tears actually started from Virginia to North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. Most of those tribes were annexed and moved. And then when they got across west, excuse me, tribes like Apache and Cheyenne and stuff were moved back to the east. The Cherokee was stuck in Oklahoma. Cheyenne, Comanche, off by like a million different names, Kiowa, all of those were like right in that Mississippi line area and shit like that. And I thought to myself, maybe we are Cherokee. But Cherokee is an offset of Iroquois. So I started confusing myself. Should I go by Cherokee? Should I go by Iroquois? Cherokee is easier to say. It's also fucking easier to spell. But this isn't about me. This is about the infighting on native TikTok. The young lady that I followed today, she was almost silenced by a fellow male indigenous person. How dare he attempt to silence a female native when non-natives are trying to silence, sterilize, and execute females all the fucking time? Missing and murdered indigenous women and girls started first. They didn't really keep track of the men because most of the men that were missing were actually murdered. And if not murdered, they were in jail. See where we're going with that? But the women are always SA'd or murdered or sex trafficked. So to have a man try to silence a female indigenous woman kind of struck me wrong. And it's unacceptable. Especially when she was being bullied by another indigenous creator. Infighting. The infighting within native indigenous TikTok or indigenous native TikTok. It needs to stop. It needs to stop right now. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Literally right now. Why does it need to stop? Because it needs to stop. There shouldn't be any other reason other than we need to get along with ourselves. Because if we don't, said forces against native and indigenous people win said battles against native and indigenous people. Now that may not affect anybody watching here who's not native. I'm not full native, but it affects me. Because if I don't do something now, I won't live long enough to do something later. Now, y'all probably are thinking, but, you know, you're not full blood. Why is it your concern? Because I'm still part of that community. Full blood or not, accepted or not, my great-grandmother on my daddy's side was full blood. And I have to stand up for her. Because she no longer exists to stand up for herself. I also don't know if she was a survivor of a residential school. Because I do recall in one of my memories of her telling me that they did not go to black schools or white schools, and that her and her big brother John had to run through the wilderness in their moccasins. Maybe that's why I don't know the Iroquois or Cherokee language. Maybe that's why I don't have strong enough ties to reservation life. Because my knowledge was stolen from us before we even existed. Maybe also because I learned that Iroquois and Cherokee married out of their race to be bargaining chips. Maybe it's also that I learned that Iroquois and Cherokee didn't like being Iroquois and Cherokee. And that wasn't all of them. Just a few. And maybe it's how we got to the color we are. Because my great-grandmother Ada was like this. Full blood. Her identity was taken and she was named Mulatto when I tried to find some stuff. So now I have to go through all this shit about death records and stuff and DAWS records and all kinds of other shit. Because the BIA won't listen to me. And they also told me even if I was 50% native, I have to be accepted by a tribe. It's hard to be accepted by a tribe if there's a lot of fucking infighting going on in the tribes. You see where I'm going? So my reconnecting journey isn't a waste of time, but it's a problem. It's a big fucking problem. Because I have 3 races within me. The government doesn't want that, because then I could claim my black and my native heritage, and they'd have to step up and count me in the native community as well as the black community. But I also have white, as a majority of American blacks have either native or white in them, not just blacks, because slave masters had some fun. Bingo bango, no black American is a full-blooded black American. Not really. Slavery was not a fucking joke. And rape was a thing. Bargaining was a thing. Try to remember that as I go into the guts and glory of this native infighting shit. See, as long as natives are fighting natives, they're not making other people who aren't native aware of missing and murdered indigenous people. They're not making other people aware of how God and the church was used as a weapon to colonize natives and kill them. If they're fighting each other, they're not making people aware of all of the sex trafficking, all of the murders, all of the traditions dying with the elders, because the young people don't want to sit and learn. They don't know how blessed they are to have elders that they can sit and talk to. I'll tell you a story. I'm going to end this video. 6-year-old Echo used to sit at the foot of his grandmother Ada and just listen to her for hours. She would tell me native stories. So when I wrote Love 13, that isn't published yet, but when I wrote it, I put my own spin on Coyote, because I think Coyote belongs to everybody. I put my own spin on Thunderbird. I put my own spin on the Deer Woman. I put my own spin on the Eskimo goddess of the ice. I put my own spin on Sasquatch. But understand these things. I know folklore and myth and legends have some truth to them. But I also know that I'm not going to be that guy out there trying to find them. Because some things are better left the fuck alone. But in learning this, the one thing she never ever taught me, the one thing she never said, you're not pure blood. Our people aren't going to like you. Our people are going to shun you. Our people are going to consider you abomination. But people like me exist because we were used as bargaining chips for peace. Big powerful white man has native baby. Native baby keeps native people from going in and killing big powerful white man and family, because now he is family. Sometimes work in reverse. Big powerful native marry white woman, have native baby, broker peace between whites and natives. Big powerful native takes black slave, Afro-Indigenous baby, brokers peace between whites and blacks, because the blacks are now indoctrinated into the tribe, which is why if you fuck with them, you fuck with us, and then we fuck your shit up. And then we barter for rifles, and that's when the world took its change. Gunpowder was a serious thing that conquered the West, until some idiot decided to give it to natives, and natives figured out how quickly those damn fire sticks work, or boom cannons, or thunder sticks, depending on what you want to call them. I think the world can take a lesson from the past, especially in the native community. Divided is how we lost this country. Sorry if I offended you and you're not native, I'm sorry. My great-grandmother always said, because our tribes were not united, we were divided over stupid shit, which is why we failed. Because our tribes was too polite and was opening of hearts and minds and not thinking about the consequences of the bad guys, because they tried to see the best in everyone. We lost. And if you're from Native or Indigenous TikTok and you're watching this, if we don't unite, we will continue to face genocide until the bitter end, and there is no us. And you will look back and say, we got these words of wisdom from a 48-year-old unpure mixed native who tried to stop infighting amongst natives time and time again. When are we going to learn? When are we going to stop fighting each other? When are we going to be one Native American nation and call it a day? I wrote a story about that. His name was Onan. It stood for One Native Nation. O-N-O. O-N-A. Or some shit like that. I have it written down somewhere. But I forgot what the story was, but it was one guy who tried to unite a lot of natives. It's a fictional story. It doesn't really exist. But the thing was, it was like one Native American nation. So it's, whatever the hell it is, like I think it's like O-N-A-N or some shit like that. One Native American nation, Onan. And I wrote the story thinking that it would eventually have to happen. It will eventually have to happen where all native tribes will have to find a way to unite so that we all can have the rights that we deserve and what we earn. This land is native land. It's my ancestral land. It's a lot of ancestral lands. And if we don't get our shit together, it'll be no man's land. That being said, I'm Echo Fan Grey Wolf. Hope I taught you something. Be seeing ya.